Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to introduce my first vlog for 2024. So I would really appreciate it if you could give me a like. That really helps me in the YouTube algorithm, as they say. Basically, the plan is to read 7 very hyped romances in 7 days. So as you know, I have, or some of you know, I have this ongoing list of books that have been very highly recommended. And I'm gonna read 7 that are on the first page to just read them, to get them off this recommended list. Actually, one I already started, which is God of Malice by Rena Kent. Basically, I combined all the Rena Kents together. That is basically how this works, because all Rena Kent's books are pretty much connected in a way. So basically, Rena Kent in general was recommended 174 times, but I do have to say this Legacy of the Gods series is the one that keeps being constantly recommended over and over again. So that one I started. I'm gonna give you my update after this. I'm planning on reading Praise by Sarah Kate. That whole series is the most recommended series on my document, and it was recommended 288 times. I'm also planning on reading Welcome to the Dark Side by Gianna Darling. That series was recommended 267 times. The Highwayman I'm planning on reading, which was recommended 227 times. That whole series was. Then I'm also planning on starting the Cloverleaf Farm series by Melanie Harlow, starting with Irresistible, which was recommended 167 times. I want to read Desperate Measures by Katie Robert, which that series plus the spin-off was recommended 152 times. And last but most certainly not least, I want to start the Mindf series by Esti Abbey, which is The Risk. I'm only going to be reading The Risk in this vlog, which was recommended 146 times. So that will remove 7 spots in this list, and I'm very excited about that because I don't know if this will be uploaded before my goals video, but basically my goal this year is to have no books recommended to me over 150 times, because I want to read books sooner than I just don't want to leave books that have been recommended over 150 times without me having read them or decide that I'm not interested in them. Very excited about that, and I have high hopes for all of them because they have been recommended so many times. So let's give you my thoughts on God of Malice. Right now I'm on chapter 25, page, let me see if my Kindle wants to, yeah. I'm on page 268 and I'm already really enjoying it. This man is unhinged behavior and Carter Mahoney vibes. He gives me all the Carter Mahoney vibes. Basically, this series follows a bunch of psychopaths, I'm pretty sure. So this is a next gen series, but I do have to say I've never read anything by Rena Kent. I haven't read her other series, even though a part of me wanted to start those before starting this series, but since she has such a vast backlist and this series is the one that I'm most intrigued with, I decided to just start with this, and it's fine. She has like a family tree and you don't really need to have read the other ones. I'm sure it would make this a better series for you if you have read all the other ones, but I haven't, and I'm still thoroughly enjoying it. Basically, you follow Killian and Glyndon, and both of them are very rich, but they go to these different schools, very prestigious schools. And one day because of events that happened in the past, her best friend committed suicide and she's on the ledge and she slips because of Killian, and he holds her, and he's like he's a psychopath, so he's like, and he really loves taking pictures of like dead things. So he's like, you know what, I can either let you drop, because the only reason that she hasn't dropped yet is because he was holding her, and take a masterpiece of a picture, or you can do something for me, which is either give me a blowjob or let me fuck you. So obviously she doesn't want to die, so she decides to go for option 1, which is to give him the blowjob. And because of her fighting him every step of the way, he becomes obsessed with her. So she has become his fixation, and he wants to just spend all his time with her, and he just wants her. When he finds out that she's a virgin, his interest sparks even more. And basically it's their sort of like twisted love story. Do I want this man in real life? Hell to the no. If I met him in real life and I had even an inkling of him being obsessed with me, I'd be like running away from him. But in this book, I'm just like thoroughly entertained. This is just a very entertaining book. I find myself flying through this book, flipping pages. I do have to say, today is day 2 of my reading 7 books in 7 days, and I have not finished it yet. But I was kind of busy yesterday, and today was a filming day, and I was filming a lot. But I only need to read like, I believe 170 pages to actually finish it, and I cannot wait. And I do feel like all the other love stories in this series are very well set up in this book as well. So I'm very much looking forward to God of Fury was very well set up in this book, and God of Wrath as well. I do have to say, this is kind of like over the top. And sometimes I find myself rolling my eyes at especially things that Killian says. But like I said, I'm just really entertained, and I can definitely see why a lot of people really love this series and why they love Rena Kent, because some of her lines I was underlining because I was really loving them. So yeah, right now I'm just enjoying my time. Definitely will be finishing it today, and I guess I'll give you my final updates after I finish it. Okay, so today is actually the day 3, so January 3rd, but I'm not doing too well on my goals because I've only finished God of Malice yesterday at night. Well, technically this morning at like 12:30. So I'm 1 book behind, but hopefully I can catch up, and if not, well, that's fine. God of Malice, I really, really loved. I gave it 5 stars. It was such a great way to start off my reading year. I'm sticking to everything I said in my update. Like, I woke up today and the only thing I thought about was Killian and their love story. this was so thoroughly entertaining. Like, do I want a man like that in real life? Hell no, because this is like a toxic mess. But I just love reading about it. It's so, like, the entertainment factor is so high for me. And I was just like following Rena Kent on Instagram, and I'm very much looking forward to reading the entire God of Legacy series plus her entire backlist. Very much looking forward to reading about the parents of these characters and even the grandfather of her. Very excited for God of Fury, and I'm pretty much like, she set up all the couples so well. I'm very much looking forward to reading all of their stories. She did such a good job. I definitely understand why a lot of people love the series so much. And yeah, I would highly recommend it. I do have to say, only if you like dark romance, though, because this is dark. It does deal with some uncomfortable issues. So if you're not okay with it, if you are like if you want a sweet hero, or if you just want a good guy, Killian is not your guy. And there are plenty of other books to go for that type of hero. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I just had a good time. I actually switched up my TBR a little bit because Welcome to the Dark Side was on my list, but that book had almost 500 pages, and that was not gonna happen. So I actually switched it up for Pucked, because both Pucked, the Pucked series, and A Lie for a Lie plus Little Lies by Helena Hunting, all those series combined were recommended to me 200 times. It still fits with my goals to remove books and series that were recommended over 150 times from this list by reading them. So very excited. I do know that the Pucked series is not a lot of people's favorite series. I do know Jen over at the Book Refuge did really love them, and I do trust her opinions. But I do know that A Lie for a Lie series plus Little Lies, those series are more widely recommended, if I can speak. But I just feel like, since I already read a dark romance and I don't have any sports romance in this TBR, I just swapped another dark romance for a sports romance. So now my TBR was God of Malice, which I read, then Paise, Irresistible, The Highwayman, Pucked, and Desperate Measures. So I actually started Paise by Sarah Kate. I'm only on page 14, and I'm already liking it because it has very short chapters. If you know me, if a book has short chapters, it already has like an advantage, because I love short chapters. It makes me fly through books so good. The only thing that is not good for Paise is that it's an ex-boyfriend's dad story, which I don't love those. On the one hand, I'm like, yeah, you go, girl. That is like a prime way to get revenge. But on the other hand, what kind of dad would sleep with his son's ex? And I don't usually like when these characters talk shit about the son. I mean, if she does, then I'm cool with it. But if he does, then I'm sorry, you're his dad. The fact that he turned out shitty, I'm not saying it's 100% your responsibility, but you bear some of the responsibility. So hopefully they don't do that in this book. And obviously Beau, the ex-boyfriend, will have his own story in the 4th book. So I cannot really tell you a whole lot about this book other than that. But basically, for those of you who don't know, Paise is the first book in the Salacious Players Club, and each book follows a different founding member of the Salacious Players. The first one is Emerson, and he has a praise kink. His son's ex-girlfriend comes to his work to get a check because they broke up, and now she needs the deposit back. And because of romance reasons, it was sent to his dad. So she goes there, but he mistakes her for his new sub. So apparently he has subs who are also his secretary. So when she shows up, he tells her to get on her knees, and she, not knowing what to do, does. And then once he realizes who she actually is, he is mortified. So he ends up actually offering her a job, being his actual secretary without the kink stuff. Eventually they start a relationship. The Salacious Players Club is this app plus sex club combined where people can get matched based on their kinks, and they can meet up in this safe place, like the safe club. Paise was not the one I was most looking forward to, I do have to say, because there's an MMF that I'm really excited to read. Eyes on Me is one I'm really excited about, and Give Me More. Those two are the ones that I'm most excited about, but I am very interested in Sarah Kate because this is not the only series by her I really want to read. I also want to read Anti-Hero by her and Burn for Me. But Paise was my most recommended book on my book rec form, or on my book recommendations list, because it was recommended 288 times. It's obviously not just Paise, it's all of the books that were recommended that many times. So yeah, hopefully I can read a lot because I'm going to a different city today, which means 2 hours of commute total. So I'm gonna make it a priority to read on the train there and back. And this book has 332 pages. So I don't know if I can actually finish it today, but hopefully I'll get a good way through. I do have to say, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not that fast of a reader. All right, so it's actually 1 o'clock on January 4th, and I finished Paise by Sarah Kate, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. But I do have to say this is my favorite ex's dad story that I've read. My other favorite is Your Dad Will Do, and mainly it's because they both don't pretend to be good people. This one I loved for the exact opposite of that. I just really appreciated, even though it was part of the third act conflict, I appreciated Emerson feeling guilty, being uncomfortable, and him trying to choose his son. I did appreciate that. Like I said, even though you know at the end it's a love story, he's gonna end up choosing Charlie anyway, I did want their relationship to go through that hurdle and for him to actually try to convince his son, and for the son eventually to be a part of them reuniting, because his son is going to be in his life, and he is a dad. He should feel all these things because it's not okay in the grand scheme of things. It's not okay, and it's not something that should be taken lightly for a dad to end up with his son's girlfriend, which is one of the reasons why I usually have an issue with that trope. Like I said, it's not from the heroine's point of view, because, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, what better way to get revenge on your cheating ex than literally becoming his stepmom? I mean, if that's not a peak revenge story, then I don't know what is. But like I said, that doesn't excuse the dad from hurting his son. You know what I mean? Like the son, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that he cheated on his girlfriend. At the end of the day, he's still your son. Did appreciate that. I feel like out of all the ex's dads, I feel like this is the best dad out of all of them. So I did appreciate that. I did really love seeing the Salacious Players Club. I'm very much looking forward to reading more in this series. I do have a feeling Paise is not going to be my favorite because I didn't really love this heroine. I'm just going to say it. She's just not my favorite. I did appreciate her at the beginning, but as I read more in this book, she just became annoying. I just feel like even though this book tried to make it that she became this like independent woman, to me she just felt like pretty codependent. I'm not gonna lie. Plus, she just molds herself to whoever she's with, and she did that with Emerson too. And I did feel like I didn't really buy their love story. I just don't understand how they fell in love with each other. Like this to me just felt like way too lust-based for me to really buy their love story. And I know this is about kink. I know this is like an erotic love story. I get that. But I don't know. I just have a feeling that the other books in the series are going to do a better job of convincing me that the couples actually fall in love. So yeah, Beau's story obviously is the one I'm very much interested in because I did really like Beau at the end of this story. I did really appreciate him. Obviously there's going to be an MMF, and I already am very interested in Drake, I'm pretty sure he's part of the MMF story. So very excited to read the rest of these books. I do have to say, Part of me is stressing out because this video is me starting a lot of series, because the next book I'm going to read is Irresistible, and I just realized that the Cloverleaf Farm series has 9 books. They're not very long, but still, I mean, one of my goals is to cut down on the ongoing series I have, but whatever. I am really enjoying my time. So far I have a 5-star and a 4-star, and I'm really thoroughly enjoying the books I'm reading. So far it's actually January 4th. I've only finished 2 books, but I have a good, Irresistible is less than 300 pages, so I'll definitely read and finish that today. Hopefully I can start and get a good way through another book, which I'm pretty sure it's going to be The Highwayman, which I usually tend to read historical romances pretty fast. So yes, I guess I'll just update you once either I'm halfway through Irresistible or once I finish it, because like I said, it is not that long. And I did see that it has very short chapters, so excited about that. And I'm just excited about Irresistible. The Cloverleaf Farm series is a series that has been recommended so many times. It's been on my want to read list for so long, so I cannot wait. This is a single dad nanny romance, which I always appreciate. Yeah, so I said it's 9 books. The original Cloverleaf Farms only has 5 books, and there's 4 next gen series, and I'm pretty sure the next gen are about the daughters of the single dad, so very excited. So I'm gonna go to sleep now, since like I said, it is 1 o'clock, and I need to get my sleep schedule in order before I actually start work next week. Yeah, I guess I'll talk to you tomorrow. Well, today, technically. Okay, so I finished Irresistible yesterday, which means I'm still 1 book behind, but that's okay. I have a couple short ones that I'm going to be reading at the end. So Irresistible, I really enjoyed. I do have to say, I did think I was going to give it a 5, and I ended up giving it a 4. Mainly because I just felt like the main male character, Mac, doth protest too much. Like, I get it, this is supposed to be a forbidden romance, and yes, he had some valid reasonings, but they didn't make sense to me. Like, he kept pushing her away and pushing her away because he was so busy, and he constantly was like, I'm constantly disappointing you, and he just framed it as she would be another person for him to take care of, when everything in the story just proved that she would add to his life, that if he was with her, it wouldn't add, it would subtract from everything that he had to do, because he had her to help him with all those things. So that was kind of annoying. And since this book was so short, it meant that a lot of it was spent on him just essentially not wanting to be, or telling her that he cannot be with her, even though he obviously can. I do have to say, I did really love the little girls in this book. They were so cute, especially in the end. Like, I liked them throughout most of this book, but in the end, that all turned into absolute love and adoration for them. They were so adorable, and their part in the end of the book was just adorable, in my opinion. I know that we will follow them in, like, the 6th, 7th, 8th, and or 9th book. Like, 3 of those books will be about them, which I'm very, very excited about. What I also really loved about this book is seeing other couples that she apparently already has written about. So Melanie Harlow is definitely going to be an author where I'm going to try to read her backlist. I know that she has a very extensive backlist, and she's a prolific author. She comes out with multiple books a year. So it's going to take me a while, but I am very much excited, especially the 2 couples that we got to see in this book as well. I am interested in their stories. Plus, I'm also interested in her sister's stories. So yeah, I would say I would recommend it. I don't know if Irresistible is the strongest book in this series, but I'm very much looking forward to reading the rest of the series. Now, a book I'm currently reading and absolutely loving is The Highwayman by Kara Byrne. This was, I believe, let me see if I'm correct about that. Yeah, this was my 5-star predictions, and right now it is 100% a 5-star. So let me tell you what this is about. It's about a girl named Farah, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that. Farah Lee. When she was 8, she met a boy named Dugan who was 10, and they were in the same orphanage, and they became very, very good friends. But she confides in him that she's been betrothed to marry this much, much, much older man, and she doesn't want to. So he takes her with him, and they actually hand fast, which technically means they're married, even though she's 8 and he's 10. So they get married, but then like a priest, or I don't know, somebody, like a teacher in this orphanage, actually assaults Farah, and she goes looking for Dugan and tells him that, and Dugan protects her by actually killing him. He gets sent to jail, And then years later, like a decade later, he actually dies in jail. And now we follow Farah 17 years later, where she's 27, and she goes by Mrs. Mackenzie because his name is Dougal Mackenzie, and she is basically living as his widow. But then she meets a dark, handsome criminal named Dorian Blackwell. Already, if you're gonna give me a main male character named Dorian, I'm gonna be more inclined to fall in love with him. So he's like the Black Heart of Benmore or something. He kidnaps her, and he tells her that he used to be in prison with Dugan and they were best friends, and he has come to protect her and get revenge because that is everything he promised Dugan. And one of the ways to get revenge is by actually marrying her. So that is actually where I stopped. I'm on page 125. This is a dark historical romance, two of my favorite genres, and I am fucking loving it. In fact, chapter 8 might be one of my favorite chapters I've ever read because it's her in the bath and then he comes to her and they're like talking, and anytime she stops washing, he stops talking, and this is so good. I am thoroughly enjoying myself. I do have to say, even when the chapters are this long, because this book has pretty long chapters. Normally, I'm not a fan of those. I 100% prefer short chapters, but I cannot stop myself from reading it. I am really loving it. I do anticipate I'll finish this today because, like I said, I just cannot stop reading it. I already love Farah. Oh, and also, one thing I forgot to say, this Dorian Blackwell character may or may not be Dugan, which I'm pretty sure, I don't know, just hints in this book make me think that he is Dugan, like they are one and the same. And there was already like this line that kind of broke my heart. That I almost came close to crying, actually. And you guys know it's very hard for me to cry, but I had like misty eyes. There is this cook who he has some brain issues where he has trouble remembering things, stuff like that. They have an interaction, and then Dorian talks to him. His name is Walters, and he asks him, "What is wrong with your fairy, Dugan?" Because her name is Farah Lee, and Dugan used to call her Fairy. So he calls him by Dugan's name, and then Dorian sighed, running into this problem more often than he cared to. "It's me, Walters. It's Dorian. Dugan is dead, remember?" Oh, confused, the giant man took a long moment to study his features, his brows drawn together. "I forgot. I'm no good at remembering things." They do say, or Dorian does say, that him and Dugan do look alike. Both of them had dark features, like dark eyes, dark hair, stuff like that. But I mean, you cannot convince me that Dorian is not Dugan. And yeah, just like, I'm just so, like, this already, like, him kidnapping her, him watching her kiss somebody else and being so mean about it, just like gives me all the warm and fuzzy feelings. I know, I love dark romance, especially dark historical romances. This once again proved to me how much I love historical romance, and I just need to read more of it. This actually was very high up on my recommendations list because when I picked it up, it was the second most recommended book. I know Jen really loved this book. I know Jess really loves it. I know it's a very beloved book, and I can definitely see why. This is, once again, a very long series, though. But so far, like I said, I'm really enjoying it. I also heard other good things about other books in this series. I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy to be reading it. Yeah, so it has a 4.09 average rating. And I love this book from the very beginning because the way she set Dugan and Fairy up, like that first chapter, just like, apart from obviously the ending part where she gets assaulted, the way she like set that friendship up, so it was just beautiful to read. Like, it was so cute and adorable, the way he was hungry, the way she meets him when he's bleeding, and she's very persistent, even though he like tries to push her away twice in a very mean way. She just comes back and nurses his wounds, and then the adventures they go on together, the way that she teaches him to read, the way that she promised him that she'll never let him go hungry. So cute. Like, I think she did a wonderful job. That first chapter felt very magical to me. It was so, so cute and adorable. Like, and already, Like, even though he was only 10 or like 12, he was like already uttering lines like, she's mine. And what else did he say? Yeah. Dugan learned much about himself in those 2 blissful years with his fairy. Namely, that when he loved, he did it nothing short of absolutely, obsessively even. Stop. I just already am loving her writing, so I'm just like so entranced by this book. So yeah, I'm gonna have an amazing reading day ahead of me. Right now it's 3:30. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna finish it. I have about like 200 pages left, but like I said, everything in me just wants to keep reading. So I'm gonna do that, and I will update you once I finish, or if I have like other things to gush about, because I'm sure there are a couple times where I wanted to pick up my camera and just talk about, like, gush about something, but I stopped myself. Maybe now, if there is something I really want to talk about, I will, but otherwise I'll just see you once I finish. So I just finished this book, and when I read the last line, I just wanted, like, I could already feel tears in my eyes. I love this book so much. As I said in my Goodreads review, I loved every single line in this book. I would not change a single thing. I felt so sorry for Dorian, everything he went through and everything he felt. It just hurt me so much. I loved this book so much. Like, I don't know if I said it in my earlier update, but this is the perfect combination of a dark romance and a historical romance. It had everything I loved. I fell in love with Dorian. I knew I couldn't stand a chance with a guy named Dorian, but I just fell in love with him and just wanted to hug him and love him. But I did not expect Farah to enchant me as well. Fairy mine. I loved her so much. I loved her spunk. I loved how she was a take charge heroine. I loved how she wanted the best for the people around her, how she fought for the people around her. I loved her so much. And the sex scenes in here were so good. Like the first couple of sex scenes, like the dark ones, like, he literally has to restrain her because he cannot bear the human touch. And even though obviously the reasons behind it's very, very, very sad, it did not make the scenes any less hot, in my opinion. While I was reading it, that usually happens with my favorite book. I'm already thinking about when I can reread it because I just loved it so much. And I love these side characters as well. I loved Murdoch. He was incarcerated because he was gay, and that just broke me. It just broke me. I loved Gemma, I think, her prostitute friend. This had so many rich characters. I cannot believe it was only 355 pages because these characters will stick with me forever. This has to be one of my favorite books of all time. It's very early to say, obviously, and it did take me a little bit to read because it took me 3 days to read, although I do have to say the first day was only a couple of pages that I read. I just wanted happiness for these two. Like, I was rooting for them every step of the way. There was a third act conflict in here, or a third act breakup, but I did feel it was necessary because it did further the plot and it did further their romance. So even that was laid out perfectly, and I just loved it. I do have to say, so he has an aversion to physical touch. He obviously needed mental health help. I don't know if that was a thing back then. I think it was, but and it does deal with, the heroine saves him. But I do have to say, usually I'm not a fan of that, but I did feel like in this case, I could forgive it. That was its only crime, and it was not like it. I could believe it in this instance. I just love this book so much. This is a masterpiece in my opinion. I cannot, like, this has been on my TBR for so long, and I cannot believe that I never read it before. Like, I just want to kick myself because if I'd read it in 2023, this would 100% have been a favorite. On the one hand, I am glad because obviously I am filming, like, I am vlogging it, but I know that Jessica talked about it years ago, and I know Jen talked about it years ago, and I never read it. But obviously, I am glad that I am reading it now. One next book I'm very excited about is Argent, I believe his name is, The Assassin. I already know that is also a lot of people's favorites. The Hunter is that book is called. Yeah, I already really loved him in this book. This was so good. I don't think I can stop thinking about these characters. It was so good. And now I'm very much looking forward to reading more books by her. I want to read her Highland Magic series. I want to read her Devil You Know series. I'm just like so excited. Like, this was perfection. I know I've only read 4 books so far this year, but the Highwayman is 100% without a shadow of a doubt my favorite book I read. So yeah, it's gonna be a steep hill to climb for the book I'm gonna read after it. But I think the next book I'm gonna read is gonna be Pucked. I think I'm gonna just read that. I know it has some mixed reviews, but generally loved it and I trust her, and I know this sets up a lot of other series that a lot of people really love. So yeah, very excited about that. All right, so I read the first 65 pages of Pucked. So I'm on chapter 6, and this book was actually written in 2015, the same time The Deal was written. So that is funny how back then apparently, I think hockey romances were pretty popular, and now the trends have come back around. But I am loving this book so much. Basically, you follow Violet and Alex, and Violet is the stepsister of a famous hockey player. She really doesn't want anything to do with hockey players. She used to date one and he was a dick. So she's kind of been staying away, but then her mom forces her to come with them to this game of her brother's. He's recently been transferred to another team, so this is the first time they're going to that team. I think it's his first game, so they go. And there she meets Alex Waters, who's the captain of the team. And they really hit it off. She really likes him because she has this preconceived notion that all hockey players are pretty much dumb jocks. Whereas he surprises her when he talks about Tolstoy and he surprises her with the fact that he actually reads literature, and he actually has a degree in English lit, stuff like that. So she already finds him attractive, and that just endears her even more to him. So they end up having a one-night stand, and that's pretty much where I am. They have a one-night stand. He really likes her, and I can definitely see why, because Violet is so funny. Like, I laughed out loud so many times in this book already, and I'm not even at page 100. Like, she is hilarious. Like, Helena Hunting should be a comedian. This is already so funny. Like, I cannot stop laughing. It's really uplifting my mood, considering The Highwayman was, I mean, I did love it, but it was very sad at times. This is just pure entertainment, and I am thoroughly enjoying myself. This is so good. Oh, also, Alex, he's the king of consent. This man, at their one-night stand, like, every step further, he kept asking things like, is this okay? Or kept looking at her, waiting for her to say something before he would continue. And that just endeared me to him so much. I already am like crushing on him. He's so sweet. And I just keep laughing. One thing that does feel a little bit too much already, and hopefully she'll tone it down a little bit. So he's Canadian. And there was this girl hitting on Violet's brother, and she was wearing a very short skirt without underwear. So she, before they actually have their one-night stand and they're still at the bar, she nudges Alex and it's like, look at her. And he's like, am I looking at her beaver? So he calls pussy beaver, and she constantly keeps referencing that in her head and to him, and it's just hilarious. But like I said, it is bordering on a little bit too much, so hopefully she'll tone that down a little bit. Also, Alex has a ginormous dick. So already, like, her thoughts and the things she says already were, like, cracking me up. So like I said, I can definitely see why Alex would fall for her, even though it was a one-night stand, because this girl has no filter and she's hilarious. I do have to say, I miscalculated how many pages this book had. I thought it had 100 pages less than it actually has. So I don't think I can actually read 7 books in 7 days. Maybe it's going to be 7 books in 8 days. But whatever, I'm still gonna keep the title, 7 books in 7 days. Yeah, and I do have to say, like, yesterday and today, I'm not reading a whole lot for some reason. And I think The Highwayman, even though I really loved it, and I think it's because I really loved it that I was savoring it. I wasn't reading it as fast because since I really loved the quotes and I loved everything about it, it made me slow down my reading a little bit. But yeah, Pucked, I'm really enjoying. Okay, so it's already Sunday evening. 7 o'clock, and I just finished my 5th book. I do have to say the last 2 books are pretty short, but it's obvious I'm not going to be reading 7 books in 7 days. So I'm going to extend it until I do finish the 7 books. Hopefully I can finish it tomorrow, but I'm here to talk about Pucked. I really, really, really enjoyed Pucked. I thought it was such a great book. I did end up giving it 4.5 stars though, because there were some things that prevented me from giving it 5 stars. Mainly, there were 3 reasons. They weren't big, but combined, it made me not love it as much as other books. And I decided this year I am gonna do the 0.5 system because I didn't love this as much as The Highwayman, but I also loved it more than Irresistible, so 4.5 would make sense. The 3 reasons why this was not a 5 is mainly because it did feel a tad bit too long. So it has 362 pages. I think this book would have been perfect at around like 310, 320 pages, because there was a part where I did feel like it was a little bit too long, because these two did get together pretty early on. And even though, yes, there was some drama, and even though you guys know I really love it when a couple is actually together, in this case, it made the book feel a little bit longer because they got together so fast. They kept rehashing kind of the same thing that ultimately also developed in the 3rd act breakup. So I feel like those things could have been tightened up a little bit. Also, I did feel like she slut-shamed these Puck bunnies way too much. And I get it. I mean, this happens a lot during when you read a hockey romance. But I did feel like she went a little bit too far, calling them dirty and hooker, stuff like that. I know this book was written in 2015, so obviously sentiments will change. But I did feel like it gave me the ick a little bit, because yes, she says it in reference to her stepbrother and calling him dirty for doing it, but he calls her out on that too, saying that these women are not dirty, and he does have a point, even though she's saying those things in reference to him being dirty. I don't know, it made me a little bit uncomfortable. It was not necessary. Also, his mom, she was a little bit too unlikable in the beginning. The way Violet also talked about her and her hair, once again, just unnecessary. But like I said, these things do not take away from the story, because I did really love it. I thought Violet was hilarious. Like, she was insane, and I loved her for it. The things that came out of her mouth and the things she thought were so ridiculous. This girl had no filter, and I cannot remember laughing out loud this much while reading a book. This is probably the funniest book I've ever read. It was so hilarious. And Alex was the perfect combination of obsessive and possessive, but also very, very sweet. He was so adorable. I fell in love with him. He was so cute. The way he loved her was perfect in my opinion. I loved his gift giving, but I also really loved how he was upfront from the beginning. He really was like almost obsessed with her from the beginning. And like I said this in the beginning, but the fact that he's such a consent king, that melted me into a puddle of goo. Like, even so, this was obviously this started as a one night stand, and then once he finally gets her to go out with him, they actually go back to his place, and then they're fooling around, and then he once again asks for consent, and he's like, wait, let me actually read this quote to you. "Are you sure? I make no move either way. Yes. I've been trying to get you to go out with me for a month. I'm not interested in forfeiting future dates, so you get to set the ground rules, okay? Ground rules. Do you want to instate a minimum number of dates before I get past second base? You've already been past second base. It doesn't mean I automatically get to go there again, does it?" So that was like adorable. Like I said, I just loved him, and I liked him going for what he wants, and even if it was too fast, he didn't care. And then on the other hand, I did like her slowing them down a little bit, because obviously like she prefers to him as like a fairy tale prince at one point, not really thinking about the consequences. I did really like that. And I do enjoy, because this series actually is different from most series I read, where you actually get to see, they have a separate whole other book that I'm very excited about, because they did really charm me. So there's a bunch of Alex and Violet content that I'm very excited to read. So I would say if you really love hockey romance, definitely check this out. I do have to say, obviously, if you're not into the type of humor that Violet has, chances are you're not gonna like it, because it is a lot. And even though I really loved it, so because I loved her humor, it made me really love the book, whereas I could definitely see if you hate her type of humor, then you won't really love the book. So obviously you won't know until you actually read it, but I would caution you there. That was my 5th book, and now for my 6th book is going to be Desperate Measures, and that is around 200 pages. Let me actually download it now that I have you here. So like I said, right now it is 7 o'clock and tomorrow I have to work again. So my week of just reading and reading and reading is almost over. Yeah, so 214 pages. This is I believe this story takes place at a sex club, and this first one, you follow villains, like Disney villains getting their HEA. So this one is Jasmine and Jafar from Aladdin. And I believe they have like a consensual non-consent type romance. Pretty sure that is their kink, which sign me up any day of the week. So I'm gonna start this book. Hopefully I can read at least 100 pages today, but hopefully I can get more than that. But that is my goal, to at least 100 pages. I definitely, like, it's only 7 o'clock, but I do want to watch some YouTube videos as well. And I do still need to clean some more. But yeah, I will talk to you later. Probably I'll talk to you once I actually finish because it is so short, but we'll see. Okay, so I'm here a few days later because, I don't know, last week I was not a great week for me. So I'm here to give you my final thoughts on Desperate Measures, and I started and finished The Risk. So let's start with Desperate Measures. This book I really enjoyed, but I did end up giving it 3.5 stars. It was not my favorite, mainly because the couple was not my favorite. This really does set up the world very well, so there are a lot of other books that I'm very much looking forward to, but I just didn't believe in their romance at the end of the day. I believe this book was just too short for me to really believe that these two fell in love. This book could have definitely benefited from 50 extra pages, and I think I would have believed you. I would have believed in their romance. What I did believe in was their sexual compatibility. Like, I thought they were hot together. I really loved their scenes together. I love the consensual non-consent aspect to this. I truly believe that everything he did, she loved, and everything she did, he loved. I loved the club, the underworld club. Katie Robert knows how to write smut. Like, she does those scenes very well, and she did it once again in this book. But like I said, it's 3.5. It's not my favorite. So it has been maybe, I think, a week since I read this book, and I haven't thought about these characters at all. What I have thought about, though, is like The Beast, even though I've not read that book yet, but I know already about the premise. So I'm very much looking forward to reading that book for sure, because that's an MMF. And we already met the characters in Desperate Measures. I really like the concept of the series. But like I said, it's just Jasmine and Jafar. I don't think they're anybody's favorite couple, honestly, and they're definitely not mine. The Risk was so great. This is the first book in the Mindf series, and the Mindf series, you follow this serial killer named Lana and this FBI agent named Logan. And the first book is basically them meeting for the first time and falling in love. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I did really like it, and I do think, because a lot of people, the Mindf series is one of their favorite series, and I do think it could be for me as well. Like, this could end up being a 5-star series. It's just The Risk on its own is 4 stars for me at the moment. Basically, Lana, something happens in her past, and now she's out for revenge, and she basically has a list, and she's checking it twice. So she has a list, she's killing everybody on her list basically, and not just killing, brutally torturing them. And Logan is an FBI profiler, and he's actually on her case, but they meet randomly at this coffee shop, and they have this amazing meet cute. They're so great. I fell in love with Logan from the start. I could definitely see, even though it was very stupid of her, why she fell in love with, like, why she was intrigued by him. So they are both very busy. Him solving cases and her killing. So it's basically their slow burn romance. And yeah, I thought this was great. This was the perfect combination of romance and thriller. At some point, even though I'm a romance girl at heart, at some point in this novella, I was more interested in her getting her revenge than her being with Logan. I was like, no, girl, leave Logan, go and kill this man. But there are a lot of unanswered questions, which makes sense. I do believe this is better just like reading them back to back, viewing it as just one book as opposed to 5 novellas. Because I have a couple questions, especially about Lana's past, and I'm just very intrigued. Like, I am worried, but also excited at the same time to see when Logan is going to find out, how he's going to find out, and what he's going to do. But yeah, so far it's just like, it feels a little bit too like an NCIS episode or something like that. I used to love NCIS because of his job. Like, I also, as much as I loved her parts, I also loved his parts where you see him trying to solve cases and really getting inside his head and him profiling. Wasn't there like a Netflix show about like a profiler? Yeah, Mindhunter. Yeah. it also kind of reminded me of that. I was very impressed by this first novella, but like I said, so far it's 4 stars, but it could definitely, I could go back and change the rating once I finish this whole series. And yeah, that was the last book I read for my Hyped Books vlog. I had such a good time. I had an amazing time reading all these books. The lowest rating I gave was 3.5. 3 4-star books, 1 4.5 book, and 2 5-star books. All in all, I had an amazing time, and I do really understand why these books were so hyped, or why these series were so hyped. Let me actually give you my average rating for the week. Yeah, so my average rating was a 4.3, so that is great. Like, that means I thoroughly enjoyed all of them. Like, I would recommend every single one of these books, and I did start a lot of new series, but I'm also interested in the rest of those series, so I'm not DNFing any of them. So very excited. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this video. And thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.